Hello everyone, Dan here. Today I will be reading again from the Collier Junior Classics 1955 edition, Volume 4, Hero Tales, and I will be continuing the piece I began earlier from Celtic legend, Finn and Oisin. So join me as we go back to the Emerald Isle in the early 9th century and revisit this fascinating period, the Fenian cycle in Irish mythology. We last left Finn MacCool in the company of his teacher, Finnegas the Bard. Finn was the second child of Cool, who was the captain of the Fianna, who were a band of warriors who served the King of Ireland. Cool was murdered by Morna at the Battle of Croca, because Morna was envious of Cool. Finn, who was then called Demna, was sent into the woods by his mother Myrna to be raised by a druidess, so that he would be away from harm. Denma would earn his legendary name Finn when he routed a group of young men who were in the company of a great lord of Ireland. These young men described him as Finn, or Fair. From then on, he would be known as Finn. Finn finally reunited with the aging Fianna, and upon producing the treasure bag of Cool, he proved that the time was near to reclaim the captaincy of the Fianna. However, Finn first resolved to learn wisdom with Finnegas before reclaiming the captaincy, and upon eating the salmon of wisdom, he finally felt he was ready. And now, Finn and Oisin, Part 2. The Coming of Finn. And now we tell of how Finn came to the captaincy of the Fianna of Erin. At this time, Ireland was ruled by one of the mightiest of her native kings, Conn, son of Felemy, who was surnamed Conn of the 100 Battles. And Conn sat on his great banqueting hall at Tara, while the yearly assembly of the lords and princes of the Gael went forward, during which it was the inviolable law that no quarrel should be raised and no weapon drawn, so that every man who had a right to come to that assembly might come there and sit next to his deadliest foe in peace. Below him sat at meat the provincial kings and the chiefs of clans, and the high king's officers and fighting men of the Fianna, with Gaul and the sons of Morna at their head. And there too sat modestly a strange youth, tall and fair, whom no one had seen in that place before. Conn marked him with the eye of a king that is accustomed to mark men, and by he sent him a hornful of wine from his own table, and bade the youth declare his name and lineage. "I am Finn, son of Cool," said the youth, standing among them, tall as a warrior's spear, and a start and a low murmur ran through the assembly, while the captains of the Fianna stared upon him like men who see a vision of the dead. "What seek you here?" said Conn, and Finn replied, "To be your man, O king, and to do you service in war, as my father did." "It is well," said the king. "Thou art a friend's son, and the son of a man of trust." So Finn put his hand in the king's, and swore fealty and service to him. And Conn set beside him his own son Art, and all fell to talking again, and wondering what new things that they would bring forth, and the feasting went merrily forward. Now, at this time, the people of the royal burg of Tara were sorely afflicted by a goblin of the fairy folk, who was wont to approach the place at nightfall, there to work what harm to man, or beast, or dwelling that he found in his evil mind to do. And he could not be resisted, for as he came, he played on a magic harp, a strain so keen and sweet, that each man who heard it must needs stand entranced and motionless until the fairy music had passed away. The king proclaimed a mighty reward to any man who could save Tara from the goblin, and Finn thought in his heart, "I am the man to do that." So he said to the king, "Shall I have my rightful heritage as captain of the Fianna of Erin if I slay the goblin?" Conn said, "I promise thee that." And he bound himself by the sureties of all the provincial kings of Ireland, and of the druid Kithro and its magicians. Now, there was among the following of Conn a man named Fiacha, who had been as a youth a trusty friend and follower of Cool. He came to Finn and brought with him a spear, having a head of dark bronze with glittering edges and fastened with 30 rivets of Arabian gold, and the spearhead was laced up within a leathern case. "By this weapon of enchantment," said Fiacha, "you shall overcome the enchanter." And he taught Finn what to do with it when the hour of need should come. So Finn took the spear and left the strings of the case loose, and paced with it toward nightfall around the ramparts of Tara. And when he had once made the circuit of the rampart, and the light had now almost quite faded from the summer sky, and the wide, low plains round the hill of Tara were a sea of white mist, he heard far off in the deepening gloom the first notes of the fairy harp. Never such music was made by mortal hand, for it had in it sorrows that a man has never felt, and joys for which man has no name, and it seemed as if a man listening to that music might burst from time into eternity and be as one of the immortals forevermore. And Finn listened, amazed and rapt, till at last, as the triumphant melody grew nearer and louder, he saw dimly a shadow shape playing as it were on a harp, and coming swiftly toward him. Then, with a mighty effort, he roused himself from dreams, and tore the cover from the spearhead, and laid the metal to his brow. And the demonic energy that had been beaten into the blade by the hammers of unearthly craftsmen in ancient days thrilled through him and made him fighting mad. And he rushed forward, shouting his battle cry and swinging the spear aloft. But the shadow turned and fled before him, and Finn chased it northward to the fairy mount of Shlivfaud, and there he drove the spear through its back. And what it was that fell there in the night, and what it was that passed like the shadow of a shadow into the fairy mound, none can tell. But Finn bore back to him next day a pale, sorrowful head on the point of Fiacha's spear, and the goblin troubled the folk of royal Tara no more. But Cone of the 100 Battles called the Fianna together, and he set Finn at his right hand and said, "Here is your captain by birthright and by sword right. Let who will now obey him henceforward, and who will not, let him go in peace and serve Arthur of Britain or Arist of Alba or whatsoever king he will." And Gol, son of Morna, said, "For my part I will be Finn's man under thee, O king." And he swore obedience and loyalty to Finn before them all. Nor was it hard for any man to step where Gol had gone before, and so they all took their oaths of fian service to Finn mac Cool. And thus it was that Finn came to the captaincy of the Fianna of Erin, and he ruled the Fianna many a year until he died in battle with the clan Urgan at Bree upon the Bowen. Thank you for listening to Finn and Oisin Part 2, The Coming of Finn. We will resume with Part 3, The Birth of Oisin, in our next video. Thank you again for listening. Stay safe and stay healthy.